I'm Jordan from Bauen, and today we're going to perform a project which many of you probably want to do in your home, which is remove old wallpaper. Unless your previous owner had amazing taste, you're probably going to want to give that room a fresh update. So for us, to remove this wallpaper, the way we do it is we use a straight edge to score, and then we peel back the first layer, which you see here, which will then expose the second layer, which is paper with glue. Get that layer wet, and then use a scraper to remove it, and we're done. So before we start removing the wallpaper, we like to assess our situation. First, we like to try to figure out what type of wallpaper we have, which here we have the most common, which is regular paper with a paper backing on it. But you might come across, let's say, a vinyl or a grass cloth. If you can't figure out what you have, don't worry about it, because in the end, the process is generally the same. Secondly, we like to perform a lead test if we know the house was built prior to 1972. Because lead paint poses a health hazard to young children and pregnant women, and we want to make sure that you make an informed decision on how you want to proceed. And lastly, we think it's a great idea to know what type of wall you have behind that wallpaper, because in the end, it can kind of affect what type of wall repair you do. So if your house was built prior to 1950, there's a chance you have plaster walls. And after that, there's a good chance you have drywall. And to tell for a drywall, it's just by giving a little knock, and if it sounds hollow, we have drywall, which we know this is drywall. So I think it's time to start ripping out the wallpaper. So we've already prepped our room, which includes laying down a plastic drop cloth with it taped to the baseboards, because it is a wet process and you don't want the water dripping down on the ground and ruining your probably nice wood floors or carpet. You also want to remove all switch plates and cover plates, because you want to be able to access the wallpaper, and typically wallpaper will be behind these areas. So the first step is to create score lines on your wallpaper so that the water can get underneath it to allow an easy removal. When scoring, you like to use light to medium pressure, because all you want to do is make sure you cut through the paper and not through the wall. So we make diagonal lines, seam to seam, as you can see here, and about 6 inches in between each. Now that we're done scoring the wall, it's time to come through with a sponge with very hot water on it and moisten the area. You want to make sure that the water gets behind the scored line so that you can access the top layer of wallpaper. You'll notice that the water gets behind the scored line when the wallpaper starts to darken in color. If you aren't successful with hot water, you can always try fabric softener with a 1-to-1 ratio, or a wallpaper stripping formula that you can purchase at any hardware store. So after letting the water sit for a few minutes and penetrating your scored lines, it's time to come through and peel off the top layer of wallpaper. If you have nails, you're in luck, because you can easily find your corner and peel it back, but if you don't, come through with your scraping tool, find your corner, and get it started. We recommend using your hand to actually peel back the paper. As you can see here, we weren't able to peel back much of the wallpaper, but that's okay, because it's a constant process of re-wetting the paper, letting it sit, and peeling it back. And also what's great is, as you wet this will also come off, so in the end, you're going to still get down to your wall. So here we have an area where we've removed the top layer of wallpaper. As you can see, we still have a few pieces that remain. We weren't perfect doing it, but that's okay, because we'll keep working this paper off as we remove this bottom layer here. So now we come through with our sponge that's wet with hot water and moisten the area. So we've let this area sit for about 2 to 3 minutes. You might be inclined to remove it immediately as soon as you put the water on it, but we found that when you do pull it off like that, it tends to come off in clumps because it's a little too saturated for removal. So after we let it sit, we find a corner and start pulling. And as you can see, it comes off in a nice big layer. And this time we're going to use our wall scraping tool, which is a great tool for people that don't want to get their hands dirty or that don't have nails. All you do is find your corner and start scraping up. And as you can see, there's a little piece here, and we just continue the process of re-wetting it letting it sit, and then scraping it off again.
You might find your edges covered in caulk or silicone. Use a blade with light to medium pressure to cut close to the edge to release the paper. You want to make sure not to press too hard because you can damage the wall behind.
We've successfully removed our 2 wallpaper sections, but as you can tell, we have the rest of the room to do, but the technique's the same. We did learn that with our drywall, we have a prime finish, which is actually great because it means that the person that applied the wallpaper did a proper job and is a good indication that our wall repair will be minimal. But if you aren't that lucky, it's okay because Bauen will teach you how to do wall repair and leave you with a nice smooth finish. And since you probably will need to do something with your walls, such as wallpapering or painting, we look forward to seeing you at our website and teaching you what to do next. So go to www.diybowen.com.